The things we carry through life, people, memories, beliefs, and experiences often shape who we become.
This is Transitional Objects.
I'm Bridget Tremblay, a doctor of psychology and licensed marriage and family therapist.
And I'm Laura Walton, a licensed marriage and family therapist.
In psychology, a transitional object is something that helps us navigate change, a bridge between where we've been and who we're becoming.
And on this podcast, we explore the relationships, experiences, and ideas that help people move through life's transitions.
We're also longtime friends who spend a lot of time thinking about why humans do the strange things we do,
including ourselves.
So each week we talk about relationships, growth, identity, and the meaningful connections that shape our lives. Hey guys, welcome back to Transitional Objects. Hi.
Hi.
Today we have a guest, so exciting. A special guest too, just because lo and behold, she is also located in Maine and I am in Maine too. Those East Coast New Englanders. Yeah, East Coast vibes. So today we have Emily Callahan, astrologer, therapist, and coach. I'm going to give the mic to you because what else do you want to go by, or how do you address you in this world?
Yeah,
That's a big question.
that is a big question. Thank you, ladies, for having me. This is so wonderful to be here. I'm so grateful. Yeah, so I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I'm an astrologer. And in my astrology world, I do life coaching with astrology mixed in. And then I also do birth chart readings. And so I have my own private practice doing therapy. And then separate from that is my astrology business. Yeah.
That's a lot. There's a lot of
Yeah.
multi things. And also knowing and being and experiencing the clinical world, the
Mhm.
therapeutic clinical world, there's those like crossovers, those multiplicities, those dual roles that I don't know about you, Laura, but I was like, how is she kind of merging and having a boundary with all of these different facets of your business, coaching, your therapy practice, and your astrology practice?
Yeah, that is something that I've been like, it's still kind of new with the astrology stuff. I've been doing that for a couple of months, officially offering readings. But I felt like coming from so much schooling in my clinical background, I was like, I really need to go to school for astrology so that I can totally wrap my head around all of this and feel like I'm giving people information that's not just what I'm pulling out of a book, but something that I really have studied and gone to school for. So I ended up going to school, which has really given me the framework that I needed to do the astrology world stuff. But yeah, for keeping it separate from my practice, like I don't obviously have any dual relationships with any of my clients. I keep those separate. I don't see any of my clients in the astrology world. And then just kind of making that clear on my social media and with my clients. But I do have, and I don't, it doesn't come up in session like doing astrology, but sometimes I do have clients who are really curious about astrology or they have already had a chart reading and they want to talk about that because that is helpful for them. We will talk about that in session sometimes, but it just kind of depends on what's going on for that client and what their background is with astrology. Because for me, the reason that I got into astrology was because I was on this journey of learning about myself. And I was like, how do I learn more about who I am? Why does it feel so confusing to figure out who am I in this world? Who am I as a therapist? Why do I struggle with the things that I struggle with? And so I actually, just to kind of launch into my story a little bit, I went to a Reiki session. It's a lot of little connections that I've just been thrown into, and I've just trusted my intuition along the way. But my one of my good friends has this other friend who was like, "Hey, I went and saw this woman for Reiki, and it was incredible." And I was like, "Oh, I've never done Reiki before," and I've always been interested in this spiritual world and other forms of healing. And so I went to Reiki and it was incredible. And the practitioner that I worked with is also a medium and a psychic. And she was like, I feel like you should really connect with this woman in the UK who's an astrologer who has given me a birth chart reading. And so I was like, okay, that's kind of weird and very far away, but like maybe I'll reach out to her. So I ended up just following through with that and went and got a birth chart reading. And it was like so eye-opening. I was like, oh my God, this is why I am who I am. Little chart that looks insane and like gibberish and people don't understand. I saw the birth chart and I was like, what the heck is that? But she was able to help me explain the relationships between the planets and how they connected in my chart specifically and where these placements were that helped to explain some of the challenges that I have in my life and help me to have a different view of who I am and why I am the way that I am. And that was what got me into wanting to study astrology was having this reading was so enlightening for me that I was like I really need to study this because I feel like this could be super helpful for people to look at themselves through this lens of astrology.
Hmm.
Wow.
Had you ever done anything with astrology prior to that?
No, I'm an Aries sun. I think the Aries has it's about fire and passion and like just kind of like saying things and getting yourself in trouble sometimes. And so just on Instagram and online, I've seen the jokes about being an Aries and I'm like, oh, that fits. But no, before this, I had never really, I was like, there's not much to astrology probably. I didn't really believe in it at all before I went and got that reading. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And the layers of it, it just it gets deeper and deeper. And there's so much to just our birth charts. It's insane.
Yeah, can you
When
just give a little explanation of what you're referring to when you say our birth chart?
Yeah, the birth chart is a snapshot of the sky at the exact moment and place that you were born. So when we're pulling up a birth chart, we're looking at what is your birth date, what is your birth time, and what are the coordinates of the town where you were born. And so basically it pulls up this chart based on that information and it will show us like where all of the planets were at the exact moment of your birth. And then it also can show us the connections between the different planets. And so it's just a snapshot of the sky at the exact moment that you were born that is kind of like some people refer to it as a blueprint for this life, if you so choose.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you received that reading, what was the most eye-opening realization, aha, oh my God, this makes sense moment for you?
There was two of them. So one of them is something I've always struggled with is I just am really blunt with my words sometimes and I end up hurting people's feelings a lot because I say something that maybe I should have not said out loud or I say it too aggressively. And that has really caused some issues in my relationships with people. But I feel so passionately about the words, but I'm saying them, if that makes sense. And so it was like confusing to me. Like, how do I keep running into this issue of communicating wrong in my closest relationships? And our Mercury is our planet of communication. And so my Mercury is in Aries. And so having the astrologer explain like how those two things tie together. So the way that I communicate is around the Aries themes. So I communicate in a way that can be harsh, can be fiery, can be too strong. And so learning that this is a part of me that I was born to be this way, and this is something that I'm supposed to work on in this life. That was really big for me because I was like, okay, I'm not a terrible person. I'm not purposefully trying to mess up my relationships with people. This is just this challenge that I was given. So that was really a big part. And then also, so when we talk about our big three, I don't have you guys heard of that term before, the big three in
Like
astrology?
the sun, the rising, and the moon? Is that
Yes.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yep. So your sun sign is your identity, your moon sign is your emotions and your intuition, and then your rising sign is how you show up in the world. And so for me, learning about those three, it was super helpful to apply to my life because I don't fully fit in the Aries category, which makes sense because I'm also a Gemini moon and a Taurus rising. And so learning about my Gemini moon was really helpful because with having a moon in Gemini, it could mean that with emotions, you really need to talk through them because Gemini is an air sign. So with air signs, there needs to be there's a lot of communication, there's a lot of being in your head, maybe overthinking. And so having my moon, my emotions, be about the themes of communicating and thinking and overthinking and processing and intellectualizing, it helped me to make sense of why is it that I need to talk through every little detail about how I feel and other people don't?
Hmm.
And why is it that in order to process through a challenge in my relationship or a challenge in my life, I feel like I have to talk things to death, or if people don't hear me, then I don't feel loved. That kind of
Mm-hmm.
relationship. And just my relationship with also wanting to learn and wanting to read a lot around the topics of emotions and intuition. So those few things were like really enlightening for me. And with the Gemini moon also comes a lot of curiosity. And so I learned that as part of what makes me a good therapist is I can be really curious about the depths of our emotions. And so that kind of also was interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, how is this? Because I'm sure there's such a great merging and healthy overlap with psychology and astrology, and how that can really benefit in not only as your own journey and of knowing yourself, but also being in a therapy room with someone who possesses some common themes, traits, identities, personalities. And just hearing you too, there's a little bit of like, before you had your reading, there was like this, perhaps like, I don't know if it was shame or something's wrong with me. Like, why do I keep doing this? It must be me. And thinking about when we treat people, when we help people, that's kind of a common theme too, to like kind of excavate, get to know why, what, and then reframe it to make it more accurate when not based in this shame, blame, judgment place.
Yeah, and for me, it was like learning that about myself allowed for like me to have actual radical acceptance around, okay, if this is who I am at this point in my life, and this was the blueprint that I came into this world with, then like I'm going to use that information and be reminded of, okay, no, this is just like a struggle that you were supposed to have. Like there's
Mm.
nothing wrong with you. This is just like
Mm.
part of your work here on this earth.
So you have new language to self, which is
Yes.
amazing. And also, I guess this is a question for you. In said relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, do you now have a new language to others that you're in relationship with as you know this about you?
Yes, I would say that like I'm able to understand, okay, I need to like when it comes to my emotions, right? Let's say that I'm having like a big emotion about something that's going on in my life. I'm starting to be able to actually trust my own guidance rather than seeking out other people's guidance because I know that, okay, I need to talk through my emotions. That's something that's like a big deal for me. But at the same time, I can recognize that sharing too much and not having boundaries with my emotions has led me down paths I didn't want to go as well. And
Hmm.
so now I know I don't have to share everything. I can share some things and I can find ways for me to communicate my emotions in a safe way within those boundaries, whether it's through journaling or through like only talking to one specific friend instead of talking to three friends about it. Or maybe it's like actually just me being in therapy or working with my own life coach, keeping those things a little bit more insular than opening them up. Like that's been super helpful for me. And remembering, like, when you're talking about, or just when you're working with people in general, or like in your personal life, in your professional life, like there are things that maybe bother you about who you're working with or talking to. It's like, why can't you just see this from my lens? Right. And astrology has helped me to remember they can't see it from my lens because their lens is totally different than mine.
Hmm.
And not just in background, but in like how we perceive the world, how we interact with the world. So it's been really helpful for me to be like, okay, I have this placement for myself and that other people don't. And it's okay that they don't. And it's okay that I can't fully understand their perspective either.
So it really helps you in relationship, in your practice, with yourself. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Now, you said that you are also a coach. So what
Yes.
is like what kind? What does that mean?
So I'm doing life coaching, which is kind of about how do we create some goals and stick to them and hold you accountable to get to where you're trying to go. But what I've mixed in is astrology in that because I feel like it's been so helpful for me to understand, okay, how do I set myself up for success, knowing this new information about myself and then actually applying it. And so what I do with life coaching is we work through a process where first reading is maybe going to be kind of like talking about background, talking about goals. And then second reading, we're going to do a full birth chart reading during that. And that's what I would do with other clients who are just scheduling a one-off birth chart reading. We'll go through all that information. And then after that, it's kind of like, how do we integrate all of this stuff that we just learned.
Oh, okay. So you merge the astrology to help you individualize plans
Yeah.
due to their chart. That
Yeah.
makes
And
a lot of
also,
sense.
it's what you were saying about feeling like we all have something that's what's wrong with me, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes with astrology, if we can kind of the same theme of like, if we can name it, we can tame it, right? Like if I can help people point out in their chart, like, look, there's nothing wrong with you. Here's why we struggle with this specific thing, then that can give them a reason to be like, okay, we've named that, and now what do I want to do with that information now that I have it?
Mhm.
Excellent.
Well,
Yeah.
It's very cool. And I never in a million years thought I would be in astrology ever. But it's so cool and it's so
Yeah.
fun. And I've always been interested in like the world of like psychics and mystics and mediums. And that I've always been drawn to that world. And I'm doing my own research about like what would really feel like it fulfills me spiritually. I'm drawn to so many different things. And I was like, let me just pick one thing and stick with it and learn as much as I can about that one thing for right now. And so that's why I chose to go to astrology school, was because I was like, I feel pulled in all these directions of numerology, which do you guys know about numerology?
a little
I
bit.
mean, a little bit.
Okay. So it'd be cool to have a numerologist on your podcast at some point, but
Yes.
it's all about the study of numbers and how our names, the letters in our names break down to certain numbers and our birth dates break down to certain numbers. And we all have a theme of the year, like our personal year number. And it just helps to kind of like give themes to things. So finding other words as well and other modalities to utilize that can be helpful in understanding like why am I at this certain point in my life? So numerology is something that I feel really drawn to as well, and learning about like how to hone in on my intuition and mediumship skills and all these different things. And I was just decided that astrology was the one that there's so much to learn. There's so much to learn about all of them, but astrology, there's a lot of books on it. It can be really straightforward or it can be really, really deep. And I like the fact that there's so much that I've learned already, but also so much that I have no idea about and may never know because
Hmm.
the journey feels endless. It's kind of like being a therapist, right? Like
Yes.
the
Right.
learning goes on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which
Hmm.
is kind of cool because it's like you'll never get bored.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like kind of like this endless learning journey
Yeah. It's really
that
cool. I
strengthens.
Yeah, and thinking about there's also you can go to the realm of karma within birth charts. And
Ooh.
what karma did I come into this life with? And what karma does my family have? And
Mm.
where does this person fall into my chart? And what does that mean about our relationship based on their chart and my chart? And so eventually, I think I want to like, I think that one of you specializes in grief. Is that right?
I do.
Laura,
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Super cool. And I love the topic of grief and how do we help people to feel, I don't know about okay being the right word, but come to some sort of acceptance around the losses, the great losses that we've had. And for me, I have had the gift of being able to look at a couple birth charts of my friends who have died, actually, which has been a really interesting experience because it just totally validated the parts of them that I could see that other people couldn't, and it gave some words to what how I experienced my friends that have passed. And so ideally at some point I want to figure out how do I incorporate that into my practice? Like how can I support people whose loved ones have died and they're wanting to learn more about them after their passing? And so that could be a really cool niche to
Interesting.
dive into.
Through the lens of astrology, does that give mm, a, is it possible for it to give a certain perspective around a person's death or why they might have died when they did or how they did?
Yes, I've heard so. And my astrology teacher warned me about that actually when I had mentioned to her wanting to maybe get into this realm of astrology that I don't even know really fully exists. I don't know anybody that does that type of astrology, but yes, there are courses on figuring out what was going on astrologically at the moment of death. And so
Wow.
you can do what's called a death chart. But
oh,
my teacher has warned me against doing that because sometimes it's just too much information, and she took a class on it, on death charts specifically, and learned a little bit more than she wanted to learn apparently. So
Yeah, because I was like, is it too, because we're fearing it may elicit stronger grief?
yes, or just make things feel like things are already out of our control as it is as humans, right? I think maybe just also making it feel like astrology is in control when it's like astrology is a tool for us to be in
Mm.
control of our lives. And she also had mentioned that there's like a couple different sit chart signatures that could indicate potentially an early death. And so she was saying that she did not want to know that about the people she
Well,
was reading because that was too heavy for her to
well,
carry.
that's interesting. And that you could particularly, or you could potentially learn that about yourself then too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And do you want to have that information?
Right.
Right,
And she was
right.
like, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't have to walk around. I don't want to have to walk around knowing that like
Oh.
all of this information that maybe other people don't know. But I'm sure that psychics and mediums come up against that sometimes as well, like those kind of ethical dilemmas of you're only asked to be given information that's going to benefit your client, right? And that's as a psychic or as a medium, that's what I've been told is that you ask to be given only information that is helpful for this person in the place that they're
Mhm.
at currently. And so that's not necessarily a helpful thing for people to know about their life possibly ending earlier than they wanted to, right?
It's
So,
so interesting too, because we're bumping up against consent.
yeah.
And it's interesting because it's like I saw Laura's face. She's like, "What? I want to know." Because we're nutty like that. We
Oh, no, I get it. I get it.
we
And it's
want to know.
so
And
curious.
to our
Yeah.
detriment
Yeah.
sometimes. But we're talking about consent. And yes, it makes total ethical sense and spiritual sense as
Yeah.
a beholder of someone's fate or someone's loved one's fate. But, like the weirdos like us, what if we were consenting and wanting to consent to something like that? Then it becomes a dilemma, right?
Then does it become a self-fulfilling prophecy on some
Mhm.
levels, right? And it's like we really need to know that information? And it's just like what I have been told, which I have no knowledge, no real knowledge about any of us. I've never taken a class in this world. I've just heard through other astrologers. It's always like certain signatures are a possibility. They're not like they're not totally for sure always 100% accurate, right? So I could look at something in your chart that tells me you had a difficult relationship with your mother. For some people, that's going to be that their mother abandoned them at the age of 6 months and that they've struggled forever with their relationship with women. For other people, that's going to be like, yeah, we fight every month and she really annoys me when she shows up at my house unwanted, right? So
Mhm.
it's like there's huge difference,
Spectrum. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And and wouldn't you think that it would be like, duh, disclaimer that this isn't the set stone
yeah,
fundamental footprint, right? So what I'm about to say to you may resonate, but it's not, it's a possibility.
right. And for me, like with the charts of people who have died, I think like the thing for me about it that's so healing is being able to see this person through a different lens than I was actually able to when they were here, right? Because we all have
Yes.
so many questions about like why
Right.
were they so annoying in
Right.
this way, or like why did I get so angry at them for doing this or that, or what was it about them that for one of my friends who passed in his chart, he had this like serious depth about him that I feel like other people didn't acknowledge really, or like he didn't fully get the chance to grow into. And then I saw his chart for the first time and I was like, oh my God, I'm so right about this. This person had such depth. And from what their chart was saying, was like they really felt their feelings so deeply, so intensely that it was hard for them to communicate it.
Mm.
And I was able to intuitively pick up on that because I knew them so well. Maybe that's something their family didn't necessarily see in them or
Right.
know about them that might be helpful and healing to be able to look back at some times in their lives where it was like, that was a hard conversation and they didn't really fully express themselves. Okay, now we can know that was a real challenge for them.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm just thinking about not through the lens of astrology, but with the people that whose deaths I have experienced, like what's been really helpful to me is just gaining a more broad understanding of I don't have to know and I don't know, but they died because there was whatever their reason for being here that was accomplished, or there's some like kind of greater force here at play that's
Yeah.
not really any of my business, but that contributed to their death. And that has been super helpful for me. But I could see how you could possibly gain something similar through
Mhm.
astrology, just based off of what their birth chart is,
Yeah.
why their life might have been the way it was and
Yeah.
ended as it did.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah.
Did you, because you said in the beginning, this all started for you, this all ignited for you when you went to a session with a Reiki, doing Reiki.
Yeah.
What was your pull to Reiki?
That's a good question. I love psychics and mediums, and that's been like a big part of my life is just going and getting readings, which I come to find out when I got my chart read and I've done more research on my birth chart. My sun is in the 12th house, which sounds like gibberish maybe to you guys, but what it means is that like my self view can feel a little hidden from my own self sometimes. And so with this, and the 12th house is the house of the unconscious, and it's the house of the truths that we hide from ourselves. It's the house of the mystic. And I've always been super curious in that world. And so, with my son being there, my core identity is in this place of feeling a little hidden from me or feeling like it's related to deeper, the depths of the world and of the subconscious. I have learned that maybe that's why I'm so curious and always wanting to gather more and more information about who I am and what I'm doing here.
Mhm.
But so I have always gone to psychics and mediums my whole life. I just love them. And I've learned so much. And I think it's all for me. It doesn't always hit completely nail on the head, but I always am a fan of the take what resonates and leave the rest. Just take what's
Mhm.
helpful and be on your way. I'm sorry, what was your question? Oh, how I got to Reiki. So I don't even know. I just had this friend of a friend who was like kind of telling me about her experience and about her mom had started going to this person and it sounded really interesting. And I was like, I've heard a lot about Reiki and I've never gone to a session because I didn't really totally understand what it meant. But this person was telling me like all about the crazy things that this woman knew about her. And this woman's also a psychic and medium. So
Mhm.
she combines and does an intuitive healing session of psychic mediumship and Reiki. And so when she's giving you Reiki, which is traditionally a fairly quiet session, she'll be sharing what's coming up or if anybody showed up for you, kind of thing. And so I went and had a session with her, and it was like really fascinating to learn about the different parts of my body and like why they were holding certain energies or what energies they were holding, and just helped me to be more in tune with my body. And then I also had I've been to her so many times, so I can't really remember what happened the first time, but I had a couple instances of when I showed up, my grandfather was waiting for me there in the room and bugging her. Emily needs to not be so anxious. Tell Emily to let go of her anxiety. And then I went there on my birthday one year. And mind you, my grandfather died 10 years before I was born. So I did not know him.
Oh.
Yeah. And maybe it was 10 years. I don't know exactly. But long before I was born. And he has never shown up in any mediumship reading I've ever done. And he's waiting for me at my person's office, sitting there. She was like, he's been here for an hour. He will not leave me alone. And on my birthday, he showed up with a bouquet of flowers to say happy birthday, which is so
Oh.
sweet. And like, so I've
Oh.
had some really cool experiences working with her. And yeah, so she was the one who sent me over to Liz Norman in the UK, who Liz is a astrologer and a homeopath. So she actually combines what she sees in the chart with her homeopath knowledge and will kind of not prescribe, but she'll say maybe this could be helpful tincture for
Mm.
you or a helpful practice or something along those lines.
Cool.
Did that answer your question? Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Is
love
this Reiki practitioner local?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to go, Bridget.
I know. I'm like, who is she? Okay, don't
Yeah.
gatekeep.
I'm not going to share her name online because
Yes.
she's so booked and busy all the time that I
Oh.
want to protect her space, but she's absolutely wonderful. And she's been really helpful for me on just navigating my own health journey and also learning about my relationship to my parents and like why I've struggled in certain ways with my parents. So she also, I think she does mediumship sessions maybe,
Yeah,
but
just send me an email.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Always good to have good referrals here in
Yeah, for
Maine.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
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 What you understand about astrology now informs your therapy practice or your therapeutic lens at all?
I think that it does to some extent. Like I was saying, kind of about the like, I'm able to understand people a little bit in a different way now. That was never understanding other people's lens. It's not a challenge for me, but I think sometimes if you're working with a client who really doesn't see things the way that you do, or if the core values are super different, right? We're still human. And so we still come to the table with our own biases and have to be aware of those things. But I think for me, it was really helpful to understand, like, for my clients who know their big three already, if when they share that with me, I'm like, oh my God, okay, this helps me to make more sense of who you are. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily, maybe it's made me a little bit of a better listener and a little bit of a better person who, a little bit of a better therapist, understanding the lens that they're coming from and having more, I don't know, I guess understanding there. But I would say that it's maybe a better therapist for my clients who understand about astrology and really learning about their moon sign, right? Our moon sign is our emotions, the way that we process our emotions, the way that we feel our emotions. And so that can be super helpful in understanding why maybe someone's picking their emotions apart all the time or why they have a hard time sharing about their emotions, stuff along those lines.
Yeah.
Mhm. It seems based off of the information you need, which I think is the date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth, right? That everybody's chart would be so unique because it's very rare that somebody's going to have the exact same of all of those things. Is that
Yeah.
right?
It's very true. Yep. And so I do have my best friends are twins. And so their charts are almost identical, but when we're looking at a broad spectrum, they're identical. But we also have to look at, we have the planet and the sign that the planet is in, and the house the planet is in, what degree the planet is at, the relationship that the planet has with all the other planets. So there's lots of layers that we're looking at when we're looking at a birth chart. And so although my friends, their charts are fairly identical, they were born a couple minutes apart, which means that a couple of their planets are at different degrees, and
Mhm.
that could require them to be at different relationships with other aspects.
Which is
So,
so wild. I
yes, it is.
mean,
Yeah, and they're like these twins, they're like so much alike and so different at the same time. And we have in school, they call it like kind of like the high road and low road of the placement and how this specific placement shows up. So we're all like living either a challenged version of it or a really empowered version of each placement. And with my two friends, they each have their own challenges in their own ways, and that shows up differently in their chart. So how they interact with the world is very different. And so how they relate to the information in their chart is very different. So even though
mm,
it's similar or exactly the same, they have a different relationship with that information.
How is that determined? Whether it sounds like whatever the planet might read, that's either a challenge for you or a strength for you. Is that right?
No, so my son being in Aries, so there's either like I could be living out an empowered Aries, which is going to be like leadership, making things happen, kind of like initiating things. But then there's also a disempowered side of Aries, which could be like talking over people, being too loud, fighting with people constantly, being too pushy. So with every placement, every sign we have, just like with any challenge we are given, we are allowed to either live it out to the best of our ability and do take the high road in all ways that we possibly can, or we can choose to live in the challenges of it and decide we're
mm,
stuck. And I'm just a pushy person, that's all I'll ever be, and I'm stuck here with that. And so for me, it's like I can recognize that about myself that like I can be forceful, I can be pushy, and that allows me to be like, okay, do I really want that to be part of my identity? Do I really resonate with that? In some ways, yes, I do, because I want to get things done. I want to make things happen. I feel very driven in lots of ways. but that doesn't mean that I have to push people away or harm my friendships or harm my relationships in order to do that. And so, how can I empower myself to live on the more peaceful end of that
So
spectrum?
that comes down to our choices and our self-awareness as an individual, based like whether
Yeah,
we're empowered or disempowered.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and like knowing that there's agency there, there's
Yes.
freedom, there's choice, right? It doesn't, you don't have to stick into this narrative, self-narrative around, I guess this is where I am.
Yeah.
It's
It sounds
actually,
like it can be flipped completely, like
Yes. Oh,
right.
yeah.
to the
Mm-hmm.
positives of that. Yeah, which is so interesting.
That
Yeah.
is.
And it's like the how do we look at life? How do we react to certain things? Something bad can happen to you. You get to choose how you react. And you can react in a positive way that's going to be maybe difficult still, but supportive of your relationships, supportive of your stability. Or you can react impulsively and negatively that's going to harm you. Right. And so it like what I like about really understanding the birth chart is some people think with astrology that this is just set in stone and this is who you are. Like, yes, I suppose it is, right? It's a part of who we are, but you can work with it rather
Yeah.
than working against it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can learn how to work with these challenging parts of ourselves and incorporate them rather than isolate them and shove them in a corner and hope that they don't ever come out, that's not going to be useful, right, to the best of our ability. So I like that it helps people to incorporate it in whatever way they see fit in their life, and they can use this information to empower them to make choices that are going to lead them down a path that they actually want to go.
Yeah. Hmm. How long is astrology school?
So I did astrology school, applied astrology schools through Deborah Silverman. Have you guys heard of her?
Maybe. I don't know. It sounds vaguely familiar.
So she actually was a therapist turned astrologer, actually. And I randomly, like very synchronistically found this school through this woman that I listened to her podcast. And she had never before said where she went to astrology school. And I was like dying to know. I was like, I wonder if there's a school that walks you step by step through how to do a birth chart reading. And I want something that's going to be interactive and allow me to actually talk to my teachers. I don't want to do self-study. And one day, randomly, I was listening to her podcast and she had somebody on that she went to astrology school with Deborah Silverman's school. And so then I learned about it and I looked it up immediately. And then they were enrolling for that fall right when I was on the website. So it was really cool to just be able to be like, oh my gosh, that totally happened for a reason.
Mm.
So I did. You can choose level one, two, and three is what she has currently. And so level one is all about your own birth chart and how to understand your birth chart and more basic stuff. And then level two is around how to read for other people and how to understand different aspects of the chart. And then level three is more giving practice readings and getting feedback from your class and from your teachers and all that kind of stuff. So I think in total, it was maybe 8 months or 9 months of schooling, but each course I think was around 2 months with some time in between to do things outside of school. And so they do a mix of live lectures and recorded lectures. And then there's lots of homework and interactive stuff to do. And then you have to give a couple of readings in order to graduate so that they can watch you follow their script, which is what I'm doing right now, is just following their specific script. I'm not exactly sure. It might have been 8 months total from when I started till I graduated the program.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very cool. And there's just, like I said, there's so much to learn. And I think that they're starting another session this fall. They're doing like
So where is it again?
it's through Deborah Silverman's
Oh,
Applied
okay.
Astrology School. Yeah,
Okay. And is it online?
it is. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's small group classes. I think maybe 10 people or so per class. And then you have your one teacher who kind of walks you through everything, and it's like a longer, maybe a 3 hour period of class, 2, 3 hours of class, and then you have homework and then you come back to class the next week. And so I had just transitioned full time into my private practice at the time. And I was like, okay, I randomly had Thursdays off and I was like, okay, let me just plug astrology into Thursdays, have that be my day. And
Yeah.
so that's still what I'm doing actually, is doing my practice 4 days a week in astrology on Thursdays. And instead of studying now, I'm giving readings, which It calls for a lot of studying every time I give a reading, but it's been really cool. And I met a lot of awesome people like from all over the world through the program. And it's just been like really helpful to connect with mentors and teachers in the astrology world who have, a lot of them have worked through Deborah Silverman's school as it is themselves before becoming a teacher there. So it's a really unique program. And Deborah Silverman is just really funny and brings it down to earth. And I don't know if she had a private practice, but she worked as a therapist for a number of years and was always drawn to astrology. And then she eventually opened up her astrology business and then it turned into an astrology school. So she actually
Oh,
has a book called I Don't Believe in Astrology. And
Oh,
that's yeah, it's a really wonderful book and it breaks things down really well and it helps you to understand sun, moon, and rising for all different signs and a little bit more than that as well. But what I love is that in the beginning, she writes a narrative as if she is, let's say, an Aries sun. And so you get to read through the narrative of like how an Aries sun might feel.
oh, ooh.
hmm
It's so cool. And she also has some YouTube videos out there that like where she acted out every sign, which is really cool too, to understand more about maybe how the sign will act or whatever it is, like the traditional ways in which they're known for.
That would be funny to
Yeah,
see.
it's really cool. And it's so funny because my best friend, she's a Gemini sun. And I was reading in the book about Gemini suns because I was doing a reading and I was prepping for a Gemini sun. And it was like something about needing to, lots of wonderful things about Gemini suns and being a little bit like all over the place. And like she calls it this sign of ADHD without having ADHD. And my friend is always having to rebook things. She forgets where she puts her stuff. She's constantly on the go. And my person I was giving a reading to ended up having to reschedule day of because they forgot that they had already booked themselves for something else. So it was just all very Gemini sun, which was kind of a cool thing to get out of Deborah's book. Yeah.
I wish we had more time. I want you to tell us about each of us, just based
I
off
I
of
know. I
whatever
know.
our sun sign is.
I know. What are your sun signs? Do you know that?
I'm Pisces.
Yeah,
Pisces, okay.
I'm Libra.
Okay. Do you guys know anything about Pisces or Libra?
I know a little bit. I know a
Little
little bit
bit,
about
yeah.
both of them. Uh,
Okay.
you could tell us a little if you have a quick little.
Yeah, Pisces is a sign of like, intuition and depth, a lot of emotions and feelings, and they're also known for psychic abilities. Sometimes you might have that thing where you feel like your friend is going to call you and they do call you. Does that ever happen to you?
Yeah, especially with Bridget.
Okay, interesting. And then Libra is known as the
True.
sign of the scales. Have you seen that? The
Yeah.
right. So it's always trying to be in balance and choosing balance kind of over harmony, choosing harmony over everything sometimes, or like wanting people to get along and wanting things to be fair and equal. And yeah, I
hmm
haven't done a deep dive on Libra just yet. So that's all I know off the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sound like you, Bridget?
Oh yeah, I've had a reading, in-depth reading, and it was very grim. It's
You're
very,
grim.
yes, yeah, like just the themes of when the time of my birth and the where I was, all the threes, just a lot of struggle and hardship and but overcoming and lots of rigidity. I have
Okay.
a Virgo rising and a Sag moon.
Okay.
I don't know. But
Yeah,
yeah,
from the Virgo rising, that could just be like they're known for like wanting to make their lists and wanting things to
uh,
be kind of perfect
yeah.
and it's like if you're showing up as that, you want to embody that a little bit, like
Mhm, mhm.
maybe do you struggle with perfectionism at all or did you?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then your Libra sun is we need it to be perfect, but also we need everybody to be
yeah,
happy. Like,
yeah.
oh
It's like
no.
yeah. It's like
And
a
then your
constant.
right, and your Sag moon is like, okay, but I also need to tell the truth. I also need to be free and be able to go whenever I
Yeah,
want to in
yeah,
whatever way that I want to.
yeah.
So it's balancing your needs and other people's needs at the same time. And how do you not put everybody else in front of you because your heart kind of needs you to be able to
Mhm.
have some space.
That's a lot of conflict.
It's a lot of like, yeah, it's just like chaotic conflict that it's like, yeah, it's a lot to manage. It's like a
Yeah.
Yeah.
lot to manage. That's what, yeah. She also did some tarots with my birth chart.
Okay.
But I think that combined, there were some good, but I probably should get another reading.
You should. And that's I've talked to a lot of people who have walked away from a reading and been like, "Oh my God, that was not with me." Sorry. People who've walked away from readings with other people and have been like, "I had a really bad experience and I was told really negative things about my life." And I think we have to be really careful of who we go to for a reading because of those reasons. I really try to make it so that people feel empowered to make their own choices in their life and not like things are fated for them to you can only follow this path and things are always going to be challenging for you. I think that that's ridiculous and just so untrue. And I just want to say to anybody listening, if you've been to an astrologer or you go to an astrologer or whatever, that it doesn't make you feel good about yourself and about the gifts and talents that you have innately in your chart, you got to go to somebody else because we can't be embodying that energy. Like that's not fair. And there's so much to a chart, and you're only going to get over so much information in 60 minutes or however long the reading is. And so I always encourage people to go to multiple people, at least two people, to get a separate perspective and see how does this person interpret a chart versus this person. And some charts do have more signatures of different challenges, and maybe their life is a little bit harder in some ways, but we all have our own challenges. And so even a chart that looks perfect and there's no red lines or whatever, right? Like even that chart has its own major challenges as well. We just might not see it specifically on the chart. So,
Mhm.
and we all have with balancing your big three, Bridget, like I have to balance my big three as well. And so some of those are going to clash and some of those are going to get along really well. And so I think that we can all find ways to make them fit and to make them get along really well, but it just takes work, takes self-awareness, and it takes us really having a close relationship with ourselves to know, yes, this is a pattern that I do have sometimes, and this is how I'm working on it to make it better for me, that kind of thing.
Oh
So,
yeah, that sounds way better. Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's definitely the right narrative to adopt.
Yeah.
It sounds like it just comes back to what we were talking about earlier, like that, the choices that we make.
Yeah,
This is
yes.
kind of the framework maybe that you're set up with, but within that lies millions of choices.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
there's freedom. There's actually freedom.
Yeah.
Lots
Yeah,
of
there is.
freedom
Yeah,
to to
absolutely.
to kind of pave your own path.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. So yeah, like Laura said, I would definitely spend another hour with you just
Oh, thank you. That's so
just
nice. I would love to
seeing.
start.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you had said it before. That was a really good way to end, is just to kind of don't give up if an experience in a reading doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But yeah, any last closing words?
And Emily, also, do you want to share if somebody's interested in getting a reading with you, how can they find you?
Oh,
Sure.
yes, right.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can find me at emilycallahanastrology.com or Emily Callahan Astrology on Instagram. And feel free to reach out to me on Instagram if you have any questions about getting a reading. I also have the option for a consultation call for life coaching, but it can be used for anything. So if any of your listeners have any questions, they can reach me there. I do just want to leave people with trust your intuition, right? Continue to work on your relationship with your intuition, and you'll know when you're with a astrologer or a psychic or a medium or a provider, right? A therapist. We know when things feel like they're meshing well and when things feel aligned, and we know when things feel off. And so I just always like to challenge people to pay more attention to what is their intuition telling them and just trust the guidance that they're being given from their intuition. So just wanted to add that on there.
That's a good
Yay.
reminder. That's
Yes.
easy to forget that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
important. Yeah.
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 Trust your gut.
Yes. Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Have a good weekend, and we're going to sign
You.
off.
Yes,
Thank
for having me.
Yeah.
Good to meet you both.
Nice.
Likewise.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for spending some time with us on transitional objects.
If something in today's conversation resonated with you, consider following the show or sharing it with someone who might appreciate it too.
You can also find episode notes and resources in the show description.
Until next time,
take care of yourselves
and each other.